Good morning, everyone. We're going to start the webinar in just a minute while I see people coming in. Okay, good morning, everyone, to everyone who's joining the webinar today. We're going to start. We are recording the session as well, so you'll be able to watch later again as well. But we're going to start now. We're going to talk today about content supply chain and how to get relevant customer experience to your customers in an efficient way. Because these days, customers are expecting on-brand and relevant for them experience, but it's not always easy as a brand to accommodate that. So that's a topic for today. But first, we're going to introduce a little bit who we are as IO and how we got to this topic. So first of all, we are IO. We are a leading digital agency, and we are focused on numerous different activities. And we always try to blend a bit the marketing technology, but also content and strategy and creativity with also the data that is necessary to achieve all of that. We are focused on experience, and experience is everything, and we help our clients provide that by working together with the different departments and the different needs to create that relevant and on-brand experiences. We are located in different areas. We're located in Belgium, in the Netherlands, but also in the Nordics, for example. And we also have some people working from Sofia, with over 2,000 people involved. So we are focused on different expertises, as I said, but we are always close to you and with as relevant experience as we can. We are here today. Myself, I'm Caroline, and I'm the marketing technology lead from IO Belgium, and I'm working across numerous different clients and always try to help them with bridging the gap between marketing and technology and ensuring that the technology that is in place in all of the companies is actually used to the greatest benefit that they could bring. Always try to blend a bit the strategy with how people are working in the organization with the technology and trying to find a bit the common ground towards ultimate experiences. But for today, there are a few things that would be good to know for you. You can always ask your questions in the chat, and we will have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. The recording will be shared afterwards via email as well as the slides. And if you do have further questions, you can always ask them later and always respond to the emails that you get from us with the recording or the slides. So then we can get started on the actual topic of today. We are here talking about content supply chain. Content supply chain is here to empower you to bring relevant customer experiences and to make sure that all the content that you need to get those relevant customer experiences is actually achieved within your company, but not only there, but also power to give to the right customer at the right time. Some setting the scene is, of course, your customers are expecting that personalized and consistent content across all of the touch points that you have. And this can go from numerous channels. It can be online and offline as well. But people are expecting that consistent journey and also expecting that you know what they want to hear, that you have a personalized experience for them, and that you actually bring whatever they might be looking for or could be looking for next is presented to them upfront proactively. That's a bit the setting that customers are expecting today, but it's very difficult to achieve that as a brand. And especially your teams, your marketing teams, your creative teams, your content teams, are they actually empowered to do all of that? Because it's not only about creating one campaign, but it's about creating that consistent message across all of those channels and also using all the tools that they need to achieve that. So are you empowering your teams to create that content? And if we're looking at a full customer journey, this is a fictive customer journey, of course, where there are multiple channels involved at each stage of the customer journey. So we have different channels that are related for the awareness phase compared to purchase and beyond, where we always see different touch points that are needed to persuade customers. And when we look at the content that is needed, is that we already see that to achieve this one simple customer journey, there are already quite a lot of content elements that are needed to have all those channels involved. If we then look at segment variations, because if we're looking at a personalized journey, there are always segments that we need to accommodate. For example, we have a different audience group compared to younger people compared to older people, or if we have a different target audience between people who are already a customer, people who are new customers, etc. We always have different segmentations that we want to deliver content for. So if we contribute those as well, so then we already have more that we need to bring. If we then think about translations, especially if you're looking for a multi country environment, but also even in Belgium, we have already 3 languages. So there are more content elements that are needed that need to be translated. And then even if we want to do some experimentation, because we do want to test, does this work better than this, etc., etc. So if you want to add some experimentation, the content is even greater. There's even more content that needs to be created for this one simple customer journey. And this is the reality. This is the reality that all of the customers that I'm working on this topic with is expecting these days. But it's very difficult to create all of that. There is almost no company that can just like this create all of this content and store it properly without any help of a proper content supply chain. So that's a scenario that we're talking about, right? How can we create all of this for a simple customer journey, for a simple campaign? And do we want to do even more? And this, of course, becomes exponentially bigger. If we look at AI, because AI is these days very often delivered there as the answer to, yeah, but AI can do all of that. AI can create all of that content. But is that actually the case? Is it as simple a solution as let's use AI to plan it? Let's use AI to create it? Could be. Let's use AI to deliver it? Maybe. Then let's use AI to measure it. There are opportunities. But will AI also be there to boost quality? I believe not. And in any of the previous ones, neither. AI is there to help, of course, but it will not be just as simple as an answer as let's use AI to do the task that we should be doing. The answer actually is let's optimize your content supply chain. Let's optimize the way that we use our content and the way that we create the content within our organization and the way that we actually deliver that towards our end customers. Important to mention is that the data and AI does have a big role to play with that. The content supply chain should be powered with data and with AI, and it should be there to support you in that. But just using AI and just using any automation process will not be there to solve your bigger questions and will not be there to optimize that full content supply chain. It's an enabler, but of course not the answer. So what is a content supply chain? Content supply chain is a term that you might or might not have heard quite often these days, but it's more a mindset. It's more a mindset within your organization that your content actually has a full supply chain to go through. It has a full lifespan from an idea all the way up to when it's delivered to your end customer and when you can actually measure it back if it was as impactful as you would guess. Content supply chain starts with a planning phase. It starts with an idea. What do we want to bring? Whether it's on a global marketing plan or whether it's on a specific campaign, there's always objectives and briefings, etc., that needs to be put out there. There is a planning phase that multiple stakeholders need to be involved with and could involve a whole planning of different agencies or different teams that need to create copy, create creatives, align all of that, put some keywords into place, etc. So structured and a good briefing is where it all starts with. It starts with putting out there that everyone involved knows what is expected of whom at which moment in time. But then we need to create that. We need to create all that content, all those assets, all those variations, all those little dots that you saw on one of the previous slides needs to be created. And in that part, it needs to blend human creativity and automation because it's almost impossible to create all of those variations manually. So there is a role to play here with AI or any automation process, but it's always there with blending human creativity. If you empower your teams to use it wisely, then there is a great benefit to be achieved with using AI and automation in the create process, but only if human creativity is empowered by it. The create phase is usually done by either agencies or an internal team of copywriters and of creatives who bring that all together. But they should also be empowered with the right tools to share that, to have approval processes, and to make sure that everything gets streamlined, approved by legal, and all of that. And then we can go to the next one, which is organize. which in the organized phase, you actually set it up for reuse. You set it up to be used, but also you set it up to be easily findable across the whole organization, so that people know what is created for which campaign, for which objective, for which plan. That should be central somewhere that people can not only find it back, but also will be happy to use for later purposes. And when it's all there, when it's all centralized, we can start delivering it to the different channels, to the different people that should be seeing it. It can be either in an automated way, or it can be in a more manual way where you grab it from the central location where it's stored and then put it into your marketing automation tool, in your social tools, or in your content management tools. Or it could be automated and fully integrated. That all depends on your technical setup, of course, but it's not a prerequisite or not a must that this is all fully integrated. It's more of a mindset, like I was saying, that this is a different phase within your content supply chain. To deliver that and to make sure that the elements get to the right customer, there is, of course, quite a lot of planning and a lot of strategy involved to make sure only the right person sees the right creative, the right experience of your brand in a consistent way. And then we need to analyze that. We need to analyze that to the specific campaign, but also in general to what did this specific element actually bring to me as a brand? Is the overall objective achieved? And are those insights actually getting actionable as well? Can we act on the insights that we get from this specific campaign? That's data storytelling. Not always easy either. And that's, again, a different team usually that is involved to get all of that. But the people who are working on the planning phase and the create phase and so on should also get the insights of the previous campaigns in a way that they can use it properly themselves. And this is, of course, not an ending story. It's a mindset, it's a supply chain, like I was saying, and it's something that lives and that continues on and on. And that is not just there, but it is empowered by a proper process and operating model, and making sure that that's as simple as it could be, and that everyone knows exactly what is expected of whom at which moment in time. Technology has a very important part to play in each individual phase, and I'll come to some examples later on. But that technology should be your enabler within this entire story, as well as automation and AI as an accelerator. So it goes way beyond content. It starts with which content is expected by your end customers. And of course, it is ending up in such a supply chain idea that you want to run all of that content in a structured and simplified way. Probably in most of the companies that I've been working with, this is structured across different silos, across different teams, across your entire organization. And it's almost never a single person's end responsibility to do all of that and to get all of this structured and streamlined and all of that. But that doesn't mean that it's not achievable. Like I was saying, it's more of a mindset and it's more of a change management process to make sure that this is baked within your full way of working within your operating model. The different phases that you see here each have their own difficulties and their own opportunities when we are thinking about that in the different organizations, and each have their own challenges as well. I'll deep dive into each of them a bit later on, but I will also show you a few possibilities for technologies that are linked with that. Because technology, as I said, should be an enabler in this entire process. And it's not always the case that this needs to be fully integrated. There are different ways that can support you in each different stage. And the more streamlined or integrated this, the easier, of course. But like I was saying, it's not a prerequisite at all. In the planning phase, there are different tools that can support you with that. Things that you might recognize in the logos here are, for example, Optimizely if you're more of a streamlined suite approach, or things like Monday.com or Asana or anything that you see here listed. In the create phase, you'll of course have things like the Adobe Suite, the Creative Cloud, but also Figma can help you with that to make sure that you have the on-brand experiences, that you use your design systems and anything that you have in place. In the organized phase, it's talking about things like a DAM, digital asset management system, a central content management system as well, that can have different forms. It can either be headless or it can be a more suite approach. It really depends on your organization and what fits within your technical architecture as well, and your needs as an organization from a business perspective. To deliver it, it's always going all the way from marketing automation for more outbound marketing, but it can also go into your website content management, or even into personalization tools, social media tools, etc., that can help you with streamlining those channels as well. I've not seen a single organization, before you doubt yourself, a single organization that has one tool that runs this whole stack, but it should be something that you are aware that these are all connected. In analysis phase, we're always talking about things like Google Analytics, of course, but also Pivot and Adobe Analytics you see here. They can help you with that, but also more marketing-driven tools like you see here could help you. We have all of these tools that are great and that are needed, but there is more needed than technology, for sure. There is the people that need to drive it, and there's, of course, also the strategy that needs to be aligned. So it's always the balance between those three, and I'm sure that you're aware that these three are the core of everything that we should be doing on a marketing level. But it starts with the right strategy. It starts with the right brand consistency, with the right message that we want to bring out there. And especially in these days of AI, and when we're talking about ChatGPT and LLMs that are looking at your brand and that are looking for your brand authority and that are looking at what your brand can actually bring to the table, the strategy becomes even more and more important, even with simple content elements that are put out there. The people in the process go beyond just who needs to do what, but is also about the maturity. How are people acting with the content that we want to create? How are people responding to the tool set? How are people responding to the way of working? And how are they actually using all of that? And then the technology, like I was saying, is there as a third pillar, but only as an enabler. So those three, we can map out over the full content supply chain. The full content supply chain, as you see here, it's now presented linear, but as I was saying before, it always goes around and around back again. But it starts with the planning phase. And each of these different circles that you see here, the brand strategy, the people and process, and the technology and data, each have their own tasks in each step of the content supply chain. In the content supply chain, we, as I was saying, start with the strategy. And for each different phase, we have different activities that we should be doing. I have created an example for this framework that is not exhaustive. So in the last slide that you'll see here, you'll see a whole lot of topics that we could be working on the content supply chain, but it could be that others are also relevant for you as a brand. This is just an example, but it can help you with forming your mindset a little bit about what we're all talking about. So first of all, the strategy layer. The strategy layer, brand and marketing strategy across the whole content supply chain. What does that all entail? For example, in the planning phase, it could go from data-driven goals and decision-making to what is our actual cross-channel customer journey? Where are we working on? How should that customer journey interact with this campaign? Where is this relevant for whom is this relevant, etc. And that usually also results in a content strategy and a measurement plan, so that we can have a full view of what is the goal that we want to put out there, what is a cross-channel journey, and what is our measurement plan and our strategy across the different content elements that we need. As an output of that phase, we should have a very clear briefing. We should have a very structured briefing. With that, we can also help you, of course, with creating such a structure or a template that could be used. But it should entail at least all of that. It should entail at least your goal, what you want to achieve, where does it fit in with your overall customer journeys, and how do you want to put that content strategy and that measurement against that? After that is all clear and everyone is involved and everyone is on board, then we can go and look at the strategy of the create phase, where we are brand consistency, where we are with clear guidelines and all of that. We can also start organizing that with channel strategy, experience design, and those things. We can have a localization strategy that should be there. And of course, also content performance and insights should be done in an analysis phase. But this is only the strategy, right? If we have the strategy in place and we know what we want to do, how we want to do it, how we want to organize it, and create that all on the different channels, localize, etc., we need to have our people aligned. We need to have the operating model and the process involved to do all of that. So again, in each phase, there is a layer of people, process, and operations that need to be involved. It starts in the planning phase, of course, with aligning on all of those goals. All the different teams and stakeholders need to be there. All the different people need to be involved and looking at the same direction. People also need to make sure that the resources and the collaboration is optimized and that everyone knows how we're going to work together, what is the approval cycle, what are the different flows that are expected. Within the create flow, those approval cycles become even more important. We want to make sure that everyone gives their go before something gets delivered to end customers. Especially in these days, we need to make sure that consistency is there and that there are least amount of unexpected inconsistencies that are being pushed into the world. There are sometimes risks that we need to take, especially in a fast-pacing world, but we do need to make as few of those as possible. Communicated briefings need to be there and they need to be clear so that everyone knows who is doing what, that we're not working against each other. I've heard stories before of customers of mine who have been working with 2 or 3 different agencies and each are doing the exact same thing. That's, of course, not optimal, especially not in efficiency and in budgeting way, but also not just in the waste of time of the people that were involved. So it should be clear, it should be communicated, and everyone should be aware of also what the other teams are doing. In the organization phase, we need to have the right culture of asset content democratization as well. We need to make sure that people know that this content should be organized in a structured way. That can be easily done by putting metadata, by putting tagging, by making sure that there is a clear naming convention of anything that you want to store. Anything that is final should be organized in such a way. The structure should be clear to everyone involved, but also there could be some automation built in so that people don't need to do that all manually, but that you, based, for example, on the content of the piece or on the naming strategy, some tags or some organization is added automatically. That reusability process across different channels, etc., should be there and should be clear as well so that people know what is there to be reused later on, what is there for a one-off campaign, but also to look back on later. For example, when we are thinking about a summer campaign, I know some of my customers are already looking beyond the first half of 2026. When we're looking at, what we want to do in spring, what do we want to do in summer, it's always beneficial to go and look back at what we did last year to then see again, what did that look like? Did it work? Did it not work? And how are they currently behaving? In the deliver phase, it's again more and more collaboration. Like I was saying before, it goes on to multiple different channels, online and offline. So it's usually different teams. It's usually different tool sets that are involved and makes it very difficult to be aligned. Difficult to know as well at which moment in time, which campaign or which content piece gets published. But it's crucial to know. If you are responsible for the website and you put a new banner on the website, it's very important to know when that same banner or when that same message actually gets pushed on social media or actually gets pushed into an email campaign, into any other outbound marketing element. So it's about collaboration. It's collaboration across different teams, usually siloed within the organization. Any analysis phase is very difficult. The analysis phase looks quite simple. Yeah, it's a report, right? And the report should be there. But it goes also about data storytelling. And data storytelling is a skill in itself. It's turning numbers into insights. Turning numbers of, I got so much clicks on my email. Yeah, that looks great. But why did they click? If we're looking at click-through rates, that's fine. But what does that mean? For example, if we have a very large audience group and we see now that on an email of marketing automation, it's 1.5% of click-through rate, or it's 3% click-through rate. And then the next campaign, it's 3.5% click-through rate. Well, that seems like a good change, but is it actually? We need to dig a little bit deeper and we need to understand not only why did they click through, so what action did they take afterwards, so cross-channel analysis, but also who did. Is it always the same people that click through? Because it's less relevant to know that people who always click through still click through. It's more relevant to know people who almost never click through, this time they did. And that should also be a little bit your sweet spot to understand why did they this time, but not previous time. And to look a little bit deeper. Same thing goes for any other channel. It's not just in marketing automation, but look at why people are actually interested, or is it just a random click through that people just always click through? If we're also looking at data storytelling, we should find it back at what was our goal, what was our initiative that we wanted to bring this content live with, and how did it reflect within your full customer journey. So always look beyond the first graph of your content and the first graph of your campaign, but look a little bit at the broader picture and finding back to what you actually wanted to achieve with some storytelling around that. And then we have the third dot there, the technology and the data. And like I was saying, the technology and the data is an enabler within the story. It's an enabler that allows you in each different state to be more efficient and to be there and to make sure that you are actually achieving the potential that you could be achieving. However, in I would say 90% of the customers that we work with, we see that only about 20-30% of the capabilities of their full tool stack is actually leveraged to the maximum. There is so much that their tool set could achieve that today is not being used. It could either be because people don't know that it exists. It could be because it's not implemented that way. It could be in numerous reasons. But there are so many tools out there that you could use and that can bring the full potential to life of this content supply chain. It goes from the planning phase, central planning system, something that all the different stakeholders have access to. Like I was saying, it can be tools like an Asana, Monday.com, but also a fully integrated tool like Optimizely or Adobe that can help you with that. The tool set that is there is also to guide you in structure, to guide you in, oh yeah, I should not forget to put metadata on this. I should not forget to put that target or that KPI in there. And that can either be blocking you from continuing to the next step or a bit less strict, just giving you a reminder like, hey, you haven't maybe thought of what this should mean, or maybe you haven't thought of who should be doing this part of the story. Those tools are always there to be quite flexible, so to adapt to your organization. And it's a very different way of working usually in B2B than in a fast-paced B2C. For example, in retail, it's a whole other story than when you're in a B2B company that only has like 2 or 3 campaigns out there. It really depends on what you want to achieve, but it should be there to guide you, to give you structure, to give you overview and planning in a little bit more efficient way than just using an Excel, like lots of our customers are doing for that. In the create phase, it's about creative automation, like I was saying before. It's about putting your design system in there. It's about putting some consistency in there, but also letting AI help you. It can go into, from one asset, now create all the formats that I need for these and these and these channels, and then you can start adapting, of course. But it's also about placement of text on assets, or about making a long or a short version of a larger copy. And then, of course, adapting that with human creativity. Never forget that step of the human, but creative automation is there to support you and to guide you through the creation of all of those content elements that you need. Because as you saw in one of the first slides, it's about hundreds of elements that should be created to achieve all of this. Collaboration is very important here, so also approval cycles should be somehow built in. I cannot say how many times that I've seen emails coming back and forth about, hey, can you still approve this? We're waiting for this. And then people are not in copy, people don't read their emails, all of that. But if it's somehow centralized in a more structured way, it can actually be followed up way easier, way faster, and can be used as a hub for all of your approvals. And then things like metadata and insights that are added, because you want to know, of course, if this content element will be efficient. So it's important already at the create stage to put some metadata out there. What this is about, what are the keywords that are relevant, what is the expectation that you have with this piece, what are the different channels that this should be used for, etc. Because that will also help you in automating the next steps. If you already put some metadata, already some additional information in the background of your content and asset elements. You can then not only organize them in an automated way, but also analyze it back and already know, like, this was a result. Later on, you can see anything with this keyword, well, it performed actually better than anything with this keyword. So things like that can help you with analyzing the full story. Then we have the organized phase in technology, and it's a centralized brand assets, as I was saying before, a DAM system, digital asset management system, that can help you with that. It can help you in organizing all of the different visuals that you need, which are always more than anticipated. And it can go from more lightweight DAM, a system, to a full-fledged. It can go from things like Frontify, Binder, etc., but also Adobe or Optimizely are systems that could do that. There are multiple out there, and it's important to find the right fit because they all work in a very different way. We have DAM systems who are working with a folder structure and are quite rigid in moving things around. And then we have systems who are just metadata driven, where you can have any asset in one large bucket that you can then tag and organize in a more flexible way. So it depends on what you need. It also depends on how many stakeholders need to be involved and how fixed your access management should be. This is usually also a system that allows you to share assets externally with things like press or anything like that, or other agencies that you want to work with. So it's a way of not only internally organizing, but also sharing different assets to the world. Things like brand assets, etc., can also easily be shared with a brand portal. And then a centralized content management system, a DXP, is also very relevant here. It can allow you to put not only website content, as it usually is for a content management system, it's website and app maybe, but also other channels. It should be there to have a way of organizing one piece of content and create versions or different adaptations for different channels. The same message that you want to put on the main banner of your homepage could also be the same message you want to put in your social media. So why not organize them together? Why not making sure that any updates that are done on all channels immediately? So centralizing that looks like something that is quite complex, but there are numerous systems out there that can help you with that, and maybe even the systems that you're using today. It could also be that this is just an easy extension of what you're already doing today, but giving you great benefit down the line. In the delivery phase, we're looking at marketing automation, of course, as one of the key things for outbound marketing that can go just from email and maybe push notifications to all channels involved and can actually give you some cross-channel journey management. Things like if you have a full customer journey based on different triggers, like if this email was opened, then put this banner on the website, and then put this social media message out there 2 days later. Those kinds of journey management tools can link as well with your data and can link with the different channel specific tools to put the message out there at the right time. It can go from mini CDPs to journey management tools or full-fledged customer data platforms that can help you with that. And then we have channel-specific technologies, of course, like AdTech, but also content management for a specific channel. Those things will still have a vital role within your landscape, but can still have an integrated way of acting with different channels. So it depends how you're set up. It can either be one central tool that does it all, or it can be a bit diverse depending on your technological strategy. Then we have the analyze phase, and in the analyze phase, it's, of course, analytics. It can go to just campaign analytics and customer journey analytics, but also content-specific dashboarding and insights. That is often forgotten. It's more campaign-driven dashboards, but when we're really looking at the content and when we're really looking at which content element we want to put out there, we can do content-specific dashboarding. Even easier if you've done the organize phase properly and the create phase with tagging your content, you can link that back to any keywords or any kind of categories that you want to put your campaign against. And you can do that over a long time. You can see how different types of campaigns are performing against others. It can go from comparing summer campaigns to winter campaigns, or way deeper to comparing anything that has keyword A in there, or anything that has a face on the banner, or anything that has a product shot on the banner, or anything like that. What is actually performing better or worse than others? Also, your experimentation should be built in with that. So if you're testing two different visuals for the same audience group, we can also compare that within these content-specific dashboarding and insights. A big role to play here as well for AI, because it can help you spot anomalies. It can help you spot automations, and it can help you spot optimizations where possible. A few slides back, I talked about what is the click-through rate of a different campaign. And it can be that indeed you now see a slight positive increase in click-through rates. That's good. But why is that the case? And AI can easily help you spot anomalies within behavior of your customers to see what is actually happening down the line. You can see drops, but also you can see spikes, and you can see also reasoning why, or at least the first draft of reasoning why. Never just take it for correct, but look at it from a critical way, and then you can see what actually makes sense. As I was saying, when I first introduced this slide, it's a whole lot of things that should be involved, and it looks maybe a bit overwhelming. I can imagine that. There is quite a lot of things that you should consider when thinking about your content supply chain. But most of the things you will be doing in some form or another. The biggest difference here is not to do a whole lot of new things, but to do it in a more streamlined way. To do it in a more streamlined way and to change your mindset from that these are all individual siloed things to no, these all contribute to that full content supply chain. If that is a mindset in your organization, then we can see on the different aspects of what you're doing here, what is already working well, and what is working against each other. Sometimes when we do audits like this at our customers, we see very specific results in things like, our channel-specific measurement strategy, which is something here in the deliver phase, is actually very different than our content strategy plan. Why is that? Well, that's because two teams are working on it, and they didn't know that the previous exercise existed. Or it could also be way deeper when we're looking at reusability, when we're doing some metadata tagging. Well, our DAM system does not support actually how we want to measure it. Or our measurement strategy, our analytics dashboards are not set up because we don't know that these things are actually tagged. Those are the conversations that we're having. And I can imagine in your organizations that that's quite similar. But if we're looking at this as a whole story, if we're looking at this as one content supply chain, then actually we can achieve efficiency gains, and then we can achieve more relevant customer experiences in the end. Because that's what we're doing it for, right? That our customers get the right experience at the right time in an efficient way. In these days of budget costs and efficiency gains through AI and management that is often saying, well, can't we replace all of this with AI? Sure, we can. Let us empower with AI. Like I was saying, in each of these blocks, there is some role to play with automation, data, or AI, but that doesn't mean that it should replace it either, but we should let AI help us be more efficient. There is no company that we're working with who are doing this efficiently, fully manual, but let it look at your process and see where it could actually be beneficial. And how to get started. That's the title of this slide. And I've picked out a few, quite randomly, I must say. But the message here is to just pick a few. Look at the full content supply chain, look at your full customer journey, and see where these blocks you're already focusing on. Where do you see biggest gaps or opportunities to work with? If you make a map like this and you see that, here in the planning phase, we lack a little bit the cross-channel customer journeys, well, that may be a first step to get started with. Same with the channel strategy. Could also be something that is maybe underused at the moment. It could exist, but maybe not used to the full extent. Then look at that. Let's start there. Focus on one or two in each phase and see where we can actually optimize. That's the biggest message here from me to you, is to look at the full content supply chain, look at the different flows of marketing strategy, of people and process and technology and data that come into play with your business that is relevant for you, because this is non-exhaustive, as I was saying before. It's just an example. But what is relevant for you, map that out in a way like this, and then we can actually start looking to optimize. See who is involved, Also let people guide you to making sure that this is done in an efficient way. To do a first audit of what all of this is and to put that all into play is a good starting point, but then just choose a few to get started with. Don't look at this and be overwhelmed of should we be doing all of this? That's not achievable. We are well aware, but at least we should start somewhere, right? So some key insights for today before we go into Q&A is think beyond creating more content. Getting content at scale and getting relevant customer experiences out there does require a lot of content. But if you are not organized already today, before that content at scale is there and before you are boosted with more and more content, it will actually not be very beneficial for you. So make sure that it's organized, delivered, and measured before you start with creating more and more and more. The second one here is collaboration. You've heard me say a lot about collaboration today, and the content supply chain is really about empowering the people, empowering the different stakeholders, teams, the different agencies involved, the different internal or external teams that need to be there, but they need to be organized. They need to be organized that this is an idea, that this is something that lives and goes from planning all the way up to analysis. Starting small, starting today for value tomorrow is start with a single area that helps you grow. Start with mapping it out and starting to think that maybe we should focus more on getting correct briefings to all of our stakeholders. Could be the case. It's very often the case, actually. So start today and see the value of it soon. It should not be a big exercise. It should not cost you hundreds of thousands of euros, but it should allow you to focus and optimize in efficiency. And then AI is not the answer. Of course, AI is there. And AI, we cannot work without any AI anymore. But it should be an enabler within the content supply chain. And each of the different aspects have some way or form of use for AI. But it doesn't mean that AI is there to create more content. Let's not do that, because people will look through you and people will not respect you more for it. And in the end, we want to make sure that our customer experience is optimized and not just more content is pushed out there. So look at the full content supply chain for the answer and look at optimizing each of those stages. So those were the key insights for me today in my presentation, but I do see we have a few questions only about the presentation. So if you have any more questions, please do ask them now in chat, or of course you can always ask them later and we will be happy to respond to you with that. As a final takeaway, what I want to give to you is, of course, if you want any support with mapping out your content supply chain, you can always contact us and we'll be there to help you from the start, or also looking at a single deep dive topic. So if there are no more questions, then of course we can wrap up the webinar for today. And I do hope that you found it interesting. And as I said, we will be in touch with the recording and the slides and any further questions you may have. Thank you very much.